Namaste everyone. Welcome to my YouTube channel Yoga with Shilpa. And here we come a new topic, a forward fold. Everybody know about a forward fold. In day-to-day life we practice anything picking from the ground. We need to add a forward fold. In a forward fold, what I actually see is like we are using more of our spine rather than our hips, which create a stiffness in our hips and roundness in our spine. So anything that we wants to pick from the ground. So rather than using our hips, for example, like a belt, if I want to pick a belt from the ground, then rather than using my hips, I'm using my spine to pick a belt, or my hamstring or my knees, rather than using my hips to first flex to pick rather than my spine. So this thing we cover today, like what is the process. Like I always said, there's nothing bad to round your spine, but if you're using only the one muscle by flexing the spine and not using the other part, then it create a compensation, it create the structure of your spine to change. So nothing wrong to round the spine, but here we are using our hips also with the spine to pick something to add in our yoga practice. So we need a prop like a ring, a block. Okay, let's begin with a ring. If you don't have a ring, then you can use a block. Instead of ring, you can use a block, but just ring give you awareness. So I'm using it, but if you don't have, then you can use a block. Okay, so let's place a ring on the wall and I'm pressing my right hips back to hold a ring. So my left buttocks is pushing back. So using this, I know about how I'm going forward. So like what I see in my class, when I say go for a forward fold, they are using their ribs to bend first and rounding, coming to a posterior tilt, because their mindset is more of to straight their legs. And this is a position that we naturally use even to pick a belt, like an example in the starting of the video. So this is the way we do a forward fold. So what we do actually to use our hips. So if you see, first I just bend from my ribs. So I'm just bending my spine instead of my hips to bend. So I'm pushing my right buttocks, my right sitting bones to push the ring, hold the ring, and maintaining the ribs and hips connection. So maintaining the length of the spine and keep reaching. So opening my glutes from the back, opening my buttocks, and lengthen my spine and add a forward fold. So this is the way we practice. So nothing is perfect. It's just I'm using my hips first. I can use my spine if I need to add a flexion in my spine, someone who is more in extension, then I can use for that person. So it's depend person to person what the body need for one person, what the body need for other person. Okay, so this is a way. So I'm just waking up my spine first, waking up my glutes to lengthen, using my hip flexors to flex my spine, flex my hips,
and adding a 5 deep breaths. So keep breathing. 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1. And let's place my palms back, lifting the body up, contracting my glutes to lift the body up. So one thing I also see in the class, because your mind is very clever. So if I say you are not using your spine to bend, so what the mind do is to bend your knees and touch the floor. So it's feel like you are not using your spine, but see. So that's why I said that you should use the ring, because rings guide you that you are going down and using your knees, not the spine, but using your knees to touch the floor. So you have to back again. So where we start, so not using your knees and keep lengthening the spine. So this is the first way. And if you don't have a block, you can use a block. If you don't have a ring, you can use a block. So I can help you how you can use block if you don't have a ring. So you push your hips back. So when I say push your hips back, what actually someone who has more anterior tilt is arching their back. So it's very important to maintain the ribs and the hips connection, that is so called your core connection. So you're not arching, not hyperextending, maintaining the natural arch of the spine, the lumbar spine, and then the same way you're lengthening the spine and adding a forward fold. The same thing, if you want to see how we use the ring, that you're using your knees. So it's just the block is lifting from the wall. So this will help you to know that you're not using your hips to bend, you're using your knees to flex, to reach down. Okay, so this is a warm up. So I use it from the right side, and now let's use from the left side. Same way, you're pushing your hips back and the right foot is back, maintaining the ribs and hips connection, and keep lengthening the spine. Stomach is towards your thighs and reaching down, lengthen the spine. Or it's depend, you want to add the spine to flex or to extend, and stay there and just breathe. So this is the first part of the forward fold. The second is to use your quads. So maintaining the spine and adding the knee to extend and bend. So bending and extending my knees, and keep observing, I'm not using my spine to round. So to extend or to lengthen my hamstring and contracting my quads, I'm not rounding my spine again. So keep maintaining the length of the spine and just bend and straight your knees. Let the hamstring to lengthen, let the quads to contract, and keep lengthening the spine. So this is the second thing we need to work when we're working on a forward fold. The first is to flex from your hips. Let the hips add the movement from the hips to move the spine. The second is your knee extension. So first is your hip flexion, the second is your knee extension, and in a both process we maintaining the spine to lengthen, not rounding it, but it's depend upon the body. Someone who's more in extension, they can use the spine to round, or anybody. If you want to use it when you flex the spine, when you flex your hips first. Okay, so let's start with the right foot forward, left foot back. So the ribs is facing to the front, the navel is facing to the front,
And let's raise your arms. Same way, imagine the block. Imagine the wall the same way. And you are lengthening the ribs, hips, the spine, adding a forward fold and exhaling, reaching back. Still, I'm bending my knees first. So lengthening and then extending my knee. So coming to a forward fold or placing, and keep lengthening the spine. If your palm cells is lifting up, then you're using your upper traps, your ribs to round. You achieve the pose, but all compensation is coming from the spine to just achieve that pose. So keep lengthening the spine and just breathe. Taking 5 deep breaths. 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1. Going back to downward dog. Lengthening the spine, ribs, hips in one line. So I'm maintaining a core connection. We can use the extension and the rounding of the spine in downward dog. But here I'm maintaining the length. So hips and ribs in one line. Let's bring the left foot forward. A forward fold. Stomach is lengthening. The chest is resting on your knees. And let the hamstring to lengthen. Quads to contract. And hips to flex. And breathe. Let's take 5 deep breaths. Keep breathing. 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1. So go back. Downward dog, lengthen the spine and bring your knees down. A simple forward fold is a child pose. So child pose is also teaching you to flex from your hips. So here we are bending the knees and lengthening the spine. But if you are not using your hips, then you can reach your nose or touch your head, but there is no use if you are not using your hips to bend and lengthen the spine. So keep breathing. Keep breathing. 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1. Okay. Now we can use a block. So someone who needs to work on or awareness about the length of the spine. So we can use a block between your stomach and your thighs. So someone who wants to see always in a rounding spine, the spine is more in a flexion, the thoracic area is more in a round position, then we can use a block to get some awareness about their forward fold. So same way, now let's bring the right foot forward and let's use a block. So placing between your stomach and your thighs, so you feel that length. So you're not dumping your ribs on the block. So let the stomach is resting and the front hip flexor needs to be strengthened to keep the block in a squeezing position, and keep maintaining the length of the spine. Keep maintaining, do not drop the block, keep maintaining. So if you always remain in a round position, then block will be dropped. So you need to maintain the length of the spine. So that's why we are using a block to get some awareness about how we need to lengthen the spine. So we are using a block, lengthening the spine, and just breathe. 5, 4, 3, 2 and 1. Let's change. Coming to the other side, same way. So this will be used
full for a person who need to work on the length of the spine. So pressing, stomach is resting, chest is away from the block. Lengthen and breathe. So 5. Keep lengthening, maintaining the same thing. Hip is in a flexion, length of the spine, hamstring in a lengthening, quads in a contraction, knee is an extension, and just breathe. 5, 4, 3, 2